Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. Yankees avoid the sweep against the Texas Rangers, and they snap a 5-game losing skid. This had a potential to be a very, very um, sort of sad episode. And look, the outlook is still not great, but it could have been a lot worse. And as the Yankees have done a lot, they win that last game of a series. Of course, not always. Look, they got swept versus the Marlins just last series. But if there was a game for Yankees to win in a series, it's likely to be the final one. And so they head home hoping for better results moving forward. But the story of the final game is really David Bednar, who you could say is likely the Yankee new closer. Now, I think there's going to be certain situations where it is fluid in more ways than one, where, look, you may have certain players unavailable. Like, look, David Bednar, even though there's a day off tomorrow, he threw 42 pitches in this 5-out save here. He may not be available Friday against the Astros. And so that's an example of, okay, at that point, someone else will be getting the ninth inning opportunity. But everything being equal, it'll probably be Bednar. But again, you have a couple other good options. Now, the other story of this series is one that isn't that fucking surprising, and it's Devin Williams blowing the save in game one and a 1-run lead in the ninth, giving up a home run to Jock Peterson. The Yankees would lose in extra innings in game one. And then game two, he comes in after basically being removed as the ninth inning guy. He comes in the eighth inning in a tie game, scoreless game, and he gets the loss there as well. Well, he gets the loss in game two, blown save in game one. But the good news is David Bednar looked really good in game one. He pitched the eighth inning in that one to keep a 1-run lead at the time. And then in this game, gets the 5 outs that he needs. And it could have even been quicker than that, but the ump didn't give him a call on the Corey Seager at bat. And so that kind of pushed things forward. Aaron Boone came out there when Bednar was at 35 pitches. And he decided, Bednar said, hey, I want to, finish this out. And that's exactly what he did. So a good sign, just as far as temperament and being able to handle a big moment. He didn't have many of those in Pittsburgh, right? I mean, the ninth inning of itself, of course, that's huge. I mean, like, saving games, at the major league level is not an easy thing to do, but to go from Pittsburgh to the Bronx, definitely a little bit different for sure. But look, another series where the Yankees, and I've said it many, many times, they could have had a much better fate. And I really looked at game one. Now, game two was winnable as well, but really Nathan Eovaldi just shut them down flat out. Like, I mean, they just, maybe they could have found a way, but knowing their road extra inning just failures, and that was the case again in game one, it was unlikely that they were going to win that game. Not to say that it wasn't frustrating, not to say there weren't mistakes and bad decisions and things like that in game two, but it's game one of the Marlins series and game one of the Texas series of recent memory. Obviously, there's just been so many losses in so many series that could have gone differently. And that's just, it's a big sample size at this point, but they are able to win the game, game three. And by doing that, they win the season series against Texas as well, 4-2, which could end up being very important because, the tiebreaker for postseason seeding and making the playoffs is head to head. And so they ensured that they won that tiebreaker. And in doing so as well, if they had lost to Texas, this would have been an episode talking about the Yankees being out of the playoffs if the season ended now. Now, look, obviously, the Yankees have a little less than 50 games remaining. There's still a good amount of time left in the season, but still, like, that would have been everything talked about. The main stories that the Yankees, like, on August 6th, were not in a playoff spot. But they avoided that by beating Texas. And thus as well, instead of being a half game out, tied the loss side with Texas, you are now a game and a half ahead of Texas and one ahead on the loss side. Again, this is not anywhere that the Yankees want to be. The fact that that's the conversation and the fact that the division is like not really there right now, because it really isn't, honestly. Yankees are 6 out, essentially 6.5 out of the American League East behind the Blue Jays. The Red Sox continue to win and win and win. As I'm recording this, the Red Sox are on a 7-game winning streak, as they will have their final game of their series against the Kansas City Royals. So the Yankees are 3 games back of the Red Sox for second place in the American League East and what would be the number one wildcard spot. They've even fallen behind the Seattle Mariners. It's close between the Yankees and Mariners, but still, like, that's what we're talking about right now. Let's discuss some moves that occurred in this series transaction wise. Now, they all occur after game one. So a couple of things. We knew that Aaron Judge was coming back, which he did, and we knew that Mark Leiter Jr. was coming back, which he did, but we didn't exactly know surrounding that what they were going to do. So let's first talk about the pitching moves that were made. There was actually a couple of them, right? So Jake Bird was sent down after game one. Now, that was always seen as a possibility, but I think that if he had pitched better, obviously he could have easily avoided that. Like, they kept Brett Hedrick on the roster, and I think in part because he was, even though he gave that homer to Stowers on Sunday, like, he was better, and it does give you a second lefty option. Jake Bird, who they just traded for, he gave up a 3-run homer to Josh Young in the 10th inning of game one. He then gets sent down. I think we'll probably see him again before the year is out. And hopefully he can get himself righted in Scranton. But yeah, I don't have a problem with that decision. Like, he was really, really struggling before the Yankees got him. As well, the Yankees designate JT Brubaker for assignment. And I wasn't sure they were going to do that. I had no issue with that, but I just wasn't sure because he didn't have options. And so essentially Brubaker will likely latch on with another team. But again, he was a long man who never really pitched in any high leverage situations. So that's the move there again. So Hedrick's kind of the one that sticks around. And then as well, they call up Yuri De Los Santos, who looked really good his last outing before he got sent down that last game against Tampa. And De Los Santos actually ended up pitching and getting a hold in game 3. So that's the thing is, he could be useful. Look, is he someone I really want pitching in big spots? Not really. I don't, even though he's shown, his ERA is actually kind of ridiculous. It's in the ones, which is misleading, but also credit given as well there. So, De Los Santos, look, and this doesn't even count for a guy like Ian Hamilton. Ian Hamilton is, still in AAA. So there is depth there, as far as Yankee bullpen arms. And the guy that really should be moving down in the pecking order in a major way is Devin Williams. And I wouldn't mind some sort of phantom IL situation. Yeah, I kind of feel like the Loaisiga injured list stint was a phantom. I mean, I don't know. It just seemed very convenient. As far as the hitter move, this became very obvious, and we'll never know what would have been. Austin Slater in game 1 pulls his hamstring. It's a left hamstring strain for Slater. So in that moment, that was it. That was it right there. Judge takes that spot on the roster. So, again, I feel really bad for Slater, and I do think that he would have had some use, and I do think that we'll probably see him at some point in September, I'm thinking. It seemed like a hamstring strain that could keep him out for some time. But I don't know what would have been done because I don't believe that they would have designated Slater for assignment, but that's, again, kind of not a thing now as he goes on the injured list. A Judge comes back and did DH his first 2 games back. It does sound like he's not that far away from being an outfield option, which is really, really key because you want Giancarlo Stanton's bat in there. He's been one of the Yankees' best hitters for a while now. And so that's important, but also you don't want to rush. You don't want to rush Judge and make this into a much worse situation. So I'm hoping, if it's not this Astros series, soon thereafter, where Judge is good enough to play right field, but we'll see. So let's discuss this series, and it was another eventful one. I mean, these Yankee series, really not for the right reasons, and not for the reasons that Yankee fans would want, have really had a lot going on in them, and game 1 was just another example of that. And another road extra inning loss. The Yankees are now 0-6 in extra inning games on the road. And have only scored 1 run, and it was a wild pitch against Cincinnati, a game in which they still lost, and they're 1 for 27. Again, in these road extra innings, again, it's not necessarily a conversation that means a whole lot in the long run, but it does speak to something. But I digress. So this Yankee lineup is very, very right-hand heavy because of the fact that they were going against Patrick Corbin. the lefty for the Texas Rangers. So a battle of southpaws and Max Fried on the mound for the Yankees, and Fried struggled in the second inning. So I mean, he ends up going 5 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, and 7 strikeouts. He responds. He gives you a scoreless fourth and fifth. But let's be fair here. You would like better from Fried, but look, like with him, you're gonna lean on the side of like being complimentary of him. It's hard not to be, just for what he's done overall, and even still within this game, for him to kind of end on a high note. And he was very close, whether he deserved it or not, to end up with his 13th win. I was really hoping for that until Devin Williams blew it in the ninth inning. Um, but again, very right-handed heavy lineup. The bench, and basically most of the bench ends up coming into this game due to injury, due to late game situations. The bench was Grisham, Dominguez, McMahon, and Rice. Rice was the only player that didn't appear in this game. Goldschmidt leads off. Goldschmidt is still incredible against lefties. Like, that's a big story of this series as well. What he did in game one, even though they lost, but then game three, he hits the game-winning go-ahead pinch hit home run. It was reminiscent to what he did at Seattle. Also, weekday, getaway day, afternoon game that tied that Seattle game. I think that was also the seventh inning, probably. So Goldschmidt, as much as I've been hard on him as far as his at-bats against righties, and deservedly so, they've been horrendous. He has not wavered at all in terms of his just absolute, domination of left-handed pitching. Ahmed Rosario batted second and played right field. What I learned about with Ahmed Rosario, they do not trust him as far as defense at all. Like, because in game three, he had a pinch hit situation and was taken out immediately for Caballero. So that is like, Rosario is strictly here as a guy versus lefties, and he does provide versatility, but really, and I'm not surprised, Rosario is not really a great defensive player. And I had said that on the trade episode, but certainly they're driving that point home. Slater was batting fifth in the lineup before he pulls his hamstring in the first at bat. And Caballero did get a start at third as McMahon started on the bench. But anyway, starts out good. Paul Goldschmidt, leadoff home run, his ninth homer of the year, makes it 1-0. And then the Yankees did have opportunity. I mean, Slater does pull his hamstring on trying to beat a double play ball. And then Dominguez would come in for him. And unfortunately, Dominguez did not have a great showing in some spots. He's not good against lefties. And Dominguez had defensive issues as well this series. Not a great series for Jason Dominguez. It's frustrating, right? Because there's a lot of potential with him. He typically is a really, good hitter against righties. I mean, he does strike out a lot, but still, like, he controls the zone. He does a pretty good job. But whether it be the defense and just his inability to hit as a right-handed hitter is tough. Volpe strikes out to end the inning with the bases loaded. Right, I believe the bases were loaded in that situation. So there was failed opportunities for the Yankees to break this game open. They couldn't quite do it. Second inning comes around. Yankees get a couple of runs, and it would be an Ahmed Rosario RBI single as well as a Cody Bellinger RBI single, and they get 3-0. But then it becomes base loaded, 1 out, and Dominguez strikes out. And that's the unfortunate thing with Slater getting hurt. Again, better results probably happen there. And then Chisholm Jr. flies out. So it stays 3-0. And then the second inning is where Texas gets going. RBI single for Josh Smith, the former Yankee prospect in the Joey Gallo trade. Then where is it? Ezekiel Duran got a 2-run single. He was also in that Joey Gallo deal. Not a good trade for the Yankees. On the play before the Duran 2-run single, Jonah Heim, his infield single by Chisholm was one that maybe could have been made. It wasn't an easy play, but Jazz had a bit of a tough defensive inning there. Nothing overly terrible, but the spotlight's going to be on when, the precedent's been set by what this defense has kind of given you. And then ultimately, Max Fried tries to pick off, I believe it was Duran at second, and throws it away, leading to Jonah Heim scoring from third. Fried has to be absolutely sure that he's going to get him, and that's just, not a good thing there, and just kind of trying to do a little too much, and so Texas takes a 4-3 lead. However, In the top of the fourth, new pitcher John Gray comes on, and Giancarlo Stanton hits an absolute missile to dead center field. A 2-run shot for Stanton, his 10th homer of the year, gives the Yankees a 5-4 lead. So that was really big. But John Gray settled in. John Gray did a great job. And I should also add, I didn't give Patrick Corbin's line. He only went 3 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. It should have been worse. John Gray ends up going 5 innings, allowing just those 2 runs. Opportunities to score more, Yankees didn't do it. Plain and simple, did not do it. For the rest of the game, Jazz with a lead-up double in the 5th, no advance. Nothing happens. Let's discuss the relievers coming in. Fried goes 5 innings, kind of finishes on a high note. And then the bullpen did amazing until the 9th. Luke Weaver, 1-2-3 inning. Camilo Doval, 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout. David Bednar, 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout. 10th hold of the season for Weaver, 8th hold of the season for Doval, 4th hold of the season for Bednar. And then Devin Williams comes in the bottom of the 9th. And no Yankee fan felt good about it. I'd been saying it for so long that, like, he already lost his closer's job to Luke Weaver earlier in the year, and you brought in 2 closers. Plus, Luke Weaver's been good lately as well. You have 3 options that are clearly better than Devin Williams, but instead you had Devin Williams pitch the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. Higashioka grounds out to start the inning, and then Jock Peterson pinch hits for Ezekiel Duran, and it's been a really, really bad season for Jock, but he is a guy that has had plenty of pinch hit experiences in his career. And he hits a home run off of Devin Williams, his 3rd homer of the year, to tie it up at 5. And the Yankees so badly needed to end this losing streak. And it doesn't happen. And Devin Williams does finish the inning, but that was really bad. Again, his demeanor sucks. His stuff is not great. He leaves the series with, I think, a little shy of a 5.5 ERA on the year. So awful. 10th inning comes around, and Danny Coulombe, the lefty, is on, and Jazz is able to get a productive out. He grounds out, gets Dominguez over to 3rd. Then Volpe walks, and then it's fucking Austin Wells. Man, Austin Wells has been fucking dreadful. Double play for Wells, who had been a sat fly machine. He fucks up in game 1, and as well in game 3. In a 4th inning situation. But here, the 10th inning, double play. And so at this point, you're thinking, all right, loss is going to happen. And it took a little bit of some time to get there, but it did. Jake Bird comes on, who was bad on the first game versus the Marlins, good in the second game. He strikes at Simeon, and Simeon looked really bad in that at bat. Then Adolis Garcia grounds out. And so you're thinking, okay, maybe Bird is somehow able to get out of this thing. Then they decide to intentionally walk Wyatt Langford, which was a curious decision. I would have at least tried to pitch to him carefully. Maybe you are able to get now. You don't want to give him anything too good, but like you have a base open. But to intentionally walk Langford, to me, I didn't agree with that move at the time. And it comes back to bite them as Josh Young. What does he do? 3-run homer, walk-off shot, his 11th homer of the year, gives Texas the 8-5 win. And Texas was obviously pumped. The Yankees go 3 for 15 runners in scoring position, leave 10 guys on. They really let Patrick Corbin off the hook. And they just couldn't really do much at all versus the Texas bullpen. And so that gets you the loss there. Devin Williams blows the save of the 9th. Max Fried does not get that 13th win. And the Rangers are euphoric in their game 1 win. So, and again, the Yankees struggles with extra and road extra innings continue. Game 2, not going to be all that discussed here, honestly, up until later in the game. Nathan Eovaldi, who's been really one of the best pitchers in the league when healthy, he wins to go to 10-3. He's got a 1.38 ERA, 8 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. It was 1 base runner. It was an Anthony Volpe hustle double. That was it. Texas had a million chances to score in this game, but Will Warren and company were able to kind of stop them from scoring runs. Texas went 1 for 16 runners in scoring position. And that 1 hit was the game-winning hit by Rowdy Tellez off of Devin Williams. But Will Warren, 5 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. So he's been really bad on the road, and so that was good. Like Will Warren right now, if the season ended today, he is your game 3 starter. He is. Like, I don't really think that there's much of a question. Now, obviously, it's a pointless exercise because we're going to see what Luis Gil does. Cam Schlittler's in the mix as well, and there's a lot of upside there. But Will Warren, I like I mean, the numbers I think are worse than what you've seen because he's just gotten absolutely obliterated in certain outings, which isn't good. But I'm impressed by the growth that I've seen from Will Warren, and there's promise in that arm. And the fact that he's basically stayed in that rotation from the start of the season to this point is really, really impressive. And so he deserves credit. The offense was horrible. Offense was terrible. So Austin Wells takes a seat in this game. Giancarlo Stanton as well. He would get a pinch hit appearance later because Judge came back. Stanton's out. Um, so there you have it. But this was a scoreless game for a while. And again, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but the theme is that Texas had chance after chance after chance and just couldn't get it done. And Anthony Volpe gets a double in the third. Really should have been a single, but good hustle by Volpe. He's been better lately. Like just overall, the defense has been much better. The offense has not been horrible. I mean, again, there's situations that aren't great, but that's what Volpe is. But again, like he's not much of the conversation right now, which is good for him. So Trent Grisham grounds out in that one situation that they had with a runner on second and 2 out in the third. Let's go to the bottom of the sixth. Camilo Duvall comes on, and he struggled that first game against the Marlins, did better in game 1 against the Texas Rangers, and here gets into a little bit of trouble. Back-to-back singles by Garcia and Peterson, but he gets out of it. Langford double play and Tellez ground out. Then the bottom of the seventh, it's Luke Weaver, who's just looked very efficient. He did allow a 2-out double to Josh Smith that was more, it wasn't hard, more well-placed by Smith, but he's able to get a couple of strikeouts in that inning as well, including one to Corey Seager to end the inning. And then bottom of the eighth, Devin Williams. Devin Williams needs to be moved way, way down in the pecking order, right? Like, just because he's not the closer anymore doesn't mean, okay, it's okay, we're going to have him in the eighth inning in a scoreless game. And that's a huge, huge situation against the heart of the order. 3, 4, and 5. And with 1 out, Adolis Garcia doubles on a play that Jason Dominguez could have made. It was hit hard, right? 3 people deserve blame for this inning. Devin Williams, Jason Dominguez, and Aaron Boone. Dominguez is a problem out there. Anyone that says otherwise is just lying to themselves. Could he get better one day? Yeah. But right now, if you need to win games, you do not want him in there because he's bound to make a mistake, and it goes off of his glove, and it's a double for Garcia. Then Jock Peterson walks, which, look, that was the matchup from the night before, so I'm okay with that walk. Again, I don't know why he was in there in the first place, but then he walks Wyatt Langford. And so now it's basically 1 out with Bednar and Leiter Jr. warming up. And Boone decides to stick with Williams, which was just not the right call. It should have never been in there. Now, again, Bednar not having pitched in this game did then lead to him being fully available in game 3. So it's a little bit of a give or take, and you could have gone Leiter Jr., although it was his first start outing back, so that wouldn't have felt right. I think Bednar, in a nutshell, that was the move that they didn't do. And Tellez, in a long, long at-bat, Williams is unable to put him away, and eventually on pitch 10, Tellez is able to get a 2-run single. Gives Texas a 2-0 lead. Williams would get an out, and then Leiter Jr. would actually come in to finish the inning. Phil Maton, newly acquired by Texas, would go for the save in the 9th. Ryan McMahon singles. McMahon's been pretty clutch in some of these late situations, I've noticed, as far as 9th inning and beyond. He's been, because McMahon has kind of cooled down a little bit at the plate. But, again, when he has come through, I think about some 9th inning situations. Giancarlo Stanton pinches for Volpe as the tying run. And Stanton hits it really hard, but it's a double play. So if Stanton hits on the ground, and it's a double play situation, that's what's going to happen, right? Stanton can't really move. Anyone else would have been safe, but it is what it is. And then from there, Trent Grisham strikes out to end the game. So they lose 2-0. Eovaldi gets that win because Texas scored at the bottom of the 8th, and it's Devin Williams that, again, is the storyline for the second game in a row. Game 3, the Yankees get a much, much, much needed victory. And Carlos Rodon was on the mound. It was not great for Rodon, but at the end of the day, it's 2 runs, 5 innings. It's you could live with it. 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. The walks are way too much. 4 walks. I mean, that's 10 base runners in 5 innings. That's way too much. But he was able to limit the damage. There was a little bit of unluckiness involved, but I need more from Rodon. I continue to say that, but Rodon needs to do better. And so Fried and Rodon both go 5 innings. You need at least six, if not more. Um, and then for Texas, on the mound was Jack Leiter, uh, cousin of Mark Leiter Jr., son of Al Leiter. He is taken out early on a pretty aggressive move by Bochy, which was the right move. 3 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, only 1 earned, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. So we were struggling as far as the walks were concerned, but again, wasn't giving up much as far as the run department goes. But Bochy was aggressive, and again, like it kind of was the right thing for him to do. In this game, Goldschmidt on the bench, but he would come in and have a big pinch hit appearance. As well, Giancarlo Stanton on the bench, because that again, as long as Judge is going to DH, Giancarlo is going to be on the bench. So Texas is able to get on the board first. In the bottom of the third, it would be an Ezekiel Duran double, and then an RBI single for Sam Haggerty to give Texas a 1-0 lead. But the Yankees respond in the fourth. Leadoff walk Bellinger, 1-out walk Dominguez, RBI single Volpe. So a big RBI single for Anthony Volpe, his 61st RBI of the season, which is a career high for Volpe. And then a double steal with McMahon up, a double steal. Dominguez to third, 19th steal, Volpe the second, 15th steal, and a throwing error by Kyle Higashioka. Ball gets away from Smith, and Dominguez scores. So that was huge to get. I mean, and that's the aggressiveness you like to see, and that's why it's so important for the likes of Dominguez and Volpe to get on base and wreak some havoc. Makes it 2-1, and then McMahon walks, and then that's it for Jack Leiter. Hobie Milner, the lefty, comes on and does the job. Could the Yankees have right then and there theoretically pinch hit Goldschmidt? Not Stanton, because then you're using too many people there. Goldschmidt would have been the move. They don't do it. They stick with Austin Wells, which, again, I understand in the fourth inning, but this is where JC Escarra, if you had JC Escarra on the roster, I think you have more freedom to do it. And I think that we will see Escarra again for flexibility reasons. Because again, Ben Rice is a unique catcher situation. Like, you have two catchers, but you're in a bind a lot of the time. You are. And so with the way that this roster is constructed, I think a third one would be useful. Anyway, Austin Wells with a little tapper to the mound, and they get the out at home. Terrible job by Austin Wells. He has had a pretty bad season any way you want to look at it. And then Trent Grisham grounds out. So it stays 2-1. They had a chance to tack on. They don't. Bottom of the fifth, Rodon gets into some trouble. There was a soft single by Duran with 1 out, a walk to Sam Haggerty, a pretty lucky hit by Corey Seager, and then a sac fly by Simeon to make it 2-2. And Rodon goes 5 innings. He starts the sixth and walks Wyatt Langford, and they bring on Mark Leiter Jr. So Leiter Jr., who pitched the night before, he's able to get a flat of Young and a double play of Kyle Higashioka. So a good job at Leiter Jr., who actually ends up getting the win, his fifth win. He has so many decisions. He's 5-6. It's pretty crazy for Mark Leiter Jr. And then in the seventh, they bring on lefty Robert Garcia after Hobie Milner did a great job. And they actually pinch hit Rosario for McMahon. Rosario grounds out. But then they finally, this time, they go Goldschmidt for Wells, and Goldschmidt gets the big home run. 10th homer of the year. He continues to mash lefties. Just a bad 0-2 pitch by Garcia. A terrible 0-2 pitch, and it gives the Yankees a 3-2 lead. Sean Armstrong would eventually come on, and eventually there'd be a bases loaded situation for Jazz. He hits the ball well to the opposite field, but it's caught by Sam Haggerty. Then in the bottom of the seventh, you have some defensive moves as Caballero replaces Rosario at third. Rice goes to catcher. Goldschmidt's at first. Tim Hill comes on and gets the lefties out. But in between that, there was a single by Durant and a catcher's interference on Ben Rice. That can't happen. That almost cost them. That was bad by Rice. And so Yuri De Los Santos comes on. He walks Marcus Simeon to make it bases loaded, but Adolis Garcia was the guy the Yankees got out in big spots, and he flies out here. So De Los Santos, in a high-leverage situation, is able to get out of the inning. And then he gets Langford to line out in the eighth. Bruce Bochy then has Jock Peterson pinch hit for Young. And at that point, it's David Bednar. Bednar going for the 5-out save. Camilo Duvall, actually, even though it would have been a third straight day, he was the emergency guy. He was warming up in the ninth. So they would have used him, but Bednar ends up throwing 42 pitches, which is the most he had thrown in over 3 years. And I think it was his first 5-out save maybe in a couple years. So he walks Jock Peterson to start. So not a great start, but then strikes out Higashioka looking and then strikes out Josh Smith swinging. Bottom of the ninth, Roddy Tellez comes on as a pinch hitter. Strikes out Tellez, strikes out Haggerty. So that's 4 straight strikeouts. And then he almost had a 5th of Corey Seager, but the ump kind of was squeezing Bednar, and it goes down as a walk. That was tough. That could have been the game right there. And for Yankee fans who just really want to win, they had to wait a little bit longer. And it ends up causing Bednar to probably throw about 12 or so more pitches, which is not nothing, right? Like, he almost escaped out with Bednar throwing about 30, which is a lot, but it's tolerable. Now, with the amount of pitches he threw, I really don't think he'll be available on Friday. I really think they're going to stay away. It was a pretty heavy workload. Marcus Semien singles to make it 1st and 2nd, 2 out for Adolis Garcia. And in a 7-pitch at bat, Bednar strikes out Garcia. So Bednar gets 5 strikeouts, picks up his 18th save of the season. The Yankees get a much, much needed 3-2 win against the Texas Rangers. So now the Yankees will take on the Houston Astros, who've been playing some pretty good baseball. They just, reacquired Carlos Correa. And their Yankees will be facing some pretty good pitching. Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez at that. So game 1 will be Hunter Brown. This is the first series between the Yankees and Astros this season. They'll play at Houston in early September. Hunter Brown against Cam Schlittler. So a big test for Schlittler and what will be, pretty good atmosphere, I'd imagine, at Yankee Stadium, especially coming off this win. Would have been a lot different if they had lost. And then game 2, after Old Timers Day, will be Framber Valdez versus Luis Gil. So Luis Gil looking to bounce back after a rough outing in Miami. And then game 3 listed as TBD for the Astros, and then Max Fried for the Yanks. So that in and of itself, game 3 is advantage Yankees, whereas those first 2 games are going to be really tough. So again, it may be another one of those situations, which I talk about a lot, where Yankees lose the first 2 and then maybe they salvage that last one. But Yankees been better at Yankee Stadium, so hoping that can do them some good. But this is going to be a big series, and the Yankees are able to snap the 5-game losing skid. Devin Williams was the negative in the series. David Bednar was the positive, as you're looking at likely your new Yankee closer, as he is able to get the 5-out save, 42 pitches, and the Yankees are able to salvage the last game against Texas by winning 3-2, and now they will head home to start a 6-game homestand, and it begins against the Houston Astros.